Hey, I'm Ryan. I'm one of the co-founders of Ops Kings. We've implemented 1,800 automations for our customers, many of which are small agencies in the last year, a year and a half or so. And I'm going to talk to you today about how we implemented AI in a useful way for our company. So we have 15 people in the company. And the reason I underline useful is because a lot of the AI applications I've seen are either like kind of like toys or prototypes. So hey, we want to generate 15,000 images, and we're going to use one of them, sort of as an optional use case for a company, or it's a 1,000-person company or like an enterprise, and they're using AI for like 1% of 1% of 1% of the company. So what we found, actually, this is like very recent in the last week, is we've implemented AI for logging calls and tracking customer calls that our business analysts do with customers. So we track things like, did they do an intro for the call? Did they do a wrap up at the end of the call? We track all the customer positive comments, negative comments, and extracting all the action items talked about in that call. We log it directly in our system so that our team can do it. So I'm going to talk you through how that thought process evolved, and how I think you can use AI in a useful way for a small company. So the first thing we want to do is take into consideration that most problems in your business are not going to be done with AI, and also we want to use the AI that you create. So if you create some amazing prompt or an amazing GPT and no one remembers that it's there, it's not going to get used and you're not going to get an ROI from it. So the first thing we always do before we automate absolutely anything in a business, whether that's with AI or regular code, is we create a production line. So if we want to think about what this is, think about a manufacturing facility. So if you have a business, you make websites, you could think of that as a project and a bunch of tasks. But the problem with a project and a bunch of tasks is somebody has to go and manually create the task every time and assign the task. And if you're using an automation, it's very difficult for the automation to know what tasks to update and what tasks to look for. So what we do instead is we create and model a business as a production line. So you have the 10 different stages of a website. The website goes in the one stage and comes out the other side, having gone through that. If you can do that, then you've got one step closer to replacing one of those steps in that production line with an AI. So it might be, for a website, it might be taking a strategy document and generating that strategy document from a call automatically. Or it might be figuring out what the client's positive or negative remarks are about your website. So first thing before to get useful AI for your business is to model your business as a production line. Once you have modeled, by the way, the way that you would model the business as a production line, we always do this in a business process map. So it's effectively, imagine a flow chart. You want to arrange the steps in a linear fashion, very much like a manufacturing or an assembly line. So that step one is to model the business like this. You're going to need some experience with customers to know what that process looks like. The next thing you do is, once you have a pretty picture and you have it modeled like this, is you want to store the status of every single one of those deliverables that you create in a source of truth. So we use a relational database tool often or we use relational database tools for this, Airtable being one of these, but we want everything, rather than things being scattered in multiple Google Sheets or notepads that your team has on their desk, or other tools like 17 different Trello boards, or a ClickUp, but sometimes we do it in Slack and sometimes we do it over here. We want everything in one place, because if everything is on different spreadsheets, no AI is going to know where to read the data from, and it's not going to get used, and it's not going to get useful. So in order to achieve useful AI, even for a small business, I believe any business, production line, source of truth. If you have a source of truth, but it's not modeled as a production line, it will not get used. And the reason for that is, if your source of truth is, we have one spreadsheet, but it's a little bit messy and things are all over the place, and in tasks and projects, you have one source of truth, but you have a bad source of truth, right? It's quite messy. So production line, we, by the way, call this a company brain. Any brain. And this would be oftentimes Airtable. And by the way, if you want us to create a company brain for you, it takes a few Zoom calls. You can check out Ops Kings and book a call, and we can talk about that for your company. So production line number one, linear process, source of truth, all the data that the AI is going to read and write from all in one place. The other element of a source of truth is you only have to make one update when one event happens. So when one customer sends you a request for a new website, there's only one place to update. If one customer name changes, there's only one place to update, and so it propagates everywhere else. We have some examples on on my YouTube channel of what this looks like. So I'll link a couple of those below so you can see some examples of what this looks like. So production line, source of truth. And the third thing is, and I think one of the reasons why I sometimes make fun of the AI bros is they focus on things that are not very high ROI. So one GPT prompt, to get it to be accurate, could take you a full day or a couple days of work, but there's many more things that are easier that have much higher ROI. So we want to focus on high ROI automations. So we normally would do the simplest automations first, because these are like much faster, and also the tasks are much more frequent. So these can be things like generating a weekly report for your client to show all the stats for that. It could be things like a client portal to show your clients like real-time values. It could be dashboards for your team so they always know like this is exactly what I have to do next. You have team-related stats. You know who in your team is performing well, who in your team is not performing well, notifications when things are happening. These are all things you can solve a ton of problems in your business if you just focus on higher ROI automations and get those working. So we've taken some businesses where they were at $10,000 per month and taken them to $100,000 per month with zero AI whatsoever. And only once we solve all of the low-hanging fruit do we even think about the fact that there's other stuff that would be like we've handled all the easy stuff. We go to harder stuff that is also impactful, but takes a few more steps to solve. Okay. So once we have this, the other advantage of having all of this sorted is your business will scale, which gives you more reps at everything you do. So more websites produced, more customers solved. You're going to hire some people. And once you hire people, it's sort of a very similar process to using an AI prompt. You tell them instructions of what you want them to do, like on your team, and they interpret those instructions in different ways. So I kind of think that if you have the founder doing everything, you don't need a lot of AI because you have the skill of the founder just intuitively doing things. This becomes, I believe, useful once you have other people other than you, the founder, doing client fulfillment or doing strategy or generating content. So those are the first three steps. Once you have all those, let's talk about the fourth one, which I think is where we unlocked most recently. And the last thing that I think is important for any automation is you have to actually make sure that your team is actively using it. And so I would call this, you want to connect to your source of truth. So we find it mostly or much more useful to have like an interface where our team is using it. In our case, we have a call logger that is automatically sending information into our dashboard for our team right when the call finishes. And they don't have a choice but to use it because it's where they're used to using their workflow anyway. So we want to connect it into here, and I would call this change management. Change management. We believe that if we create an automation for either our team or for our clients, and if we don't hear any bugs, we don't hear any like an idea for a change, that we have failed. So honestly, I think anything to make anything useful, you need to actually make sure that it is used. And if you get the wrong use case or there's so many bugs that it's just unusable for somebody, I don't think you've done a good job. And so the way that we would start with this, and if you're interested in having our thoughts on your business and the use cases that we see from our experience, you can book a call. We can create a company brain for you, and at least call out some of the things that you could apply AI to or automation to, so that you have our high ROI and a source of truth for your business, even if it's quite small. So if you're interested in that, you can go here and we'll have some links below the video as well if you want to learn more.